there. My name is Joe Alicata, and I'm joined here on stage by Mayor Andrew Hardwick and Mr. Frank Rizzo ahead of the upcoming Freeport Village Trustee race. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having us.
So, let's get into what we're here to talk about. Can you give us a little background first about yourselves? We'll start with Frank, and then we'll move to the mayor.
Thank you. I'm a father of 2 children and a grandfather. I'm part of a family-owned and operated business on the Nautical Mile in Freeport, New York. I'm a merchant marine officer. I'm a chaplain at the American Legion Post. I'm a Vietnam Era veteran. And my parents are still with us, and very grateful for that. And I'm a member of the Nautical Mile Merchants Association. I'm also a member of the Freeport Chamber of Commerce. And I provide a lot of programs for youth on our vessels. We have charter boats, and as I had said earlier, and we provide a lot of programs for youth and other people to bring business into our community, as well as meeting them and re-greeting them year after year.
So, certainly a pillar of the community, to say the least.
Yes, we strive for that, and we strive not only for the success of the event, but also representing our community. It's very important. We are very transparent on the Nautical Mile, and our transparency being in the middle of the block is very, very important to maintain. And we find it very easy to do that.
Fantastic stuff. Mayor Hardwick, a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a lifelong Freeporter, 10 years in military. I should say I'm happily married with 4 beautiful children, 3 of them adults and 1 15-year at home that I wish he could tell me where my little girl went. Thank God I still have my dad and other siblings that live here in Freeport. We moved here in the early 60s. It's a jewel, and that's one of the reasons that I returned back here. I belonged to so many different organizations through the years. You know, over 25 years in the Freeport Fire Department. I've been a member of the Kiwanians, the Rotarians. I'm a Mason. I'm a member of the Northwest Civic Association. I probably missed a few, but quite active in the community.
So, as you just alluded to, you've been politically active before in Freeport and in the surrounding area, and having that kind of background, you've faced some challenges and you've certainly had some successes. So could you speak to a couple of those? We'll start with the successes, and then we can move on to the challenges. Some of the things that you faced in your time in your various roles, either as mayor of Freeport or any of the other positions you may have held.
Well, you know, fortunately, I've been blessed to serve in various capacities throughout government, from federal government, state to county, and in the village as well, even prior to becoming the mayor. I was always somehow in a leadership role in those various posts, and I was fortunate to serve in high capacities. Like, for instance, with Nassau County, I was the Senior Deputy Commissioner charged with operations for Nassau County Parks, Recreation, and Museums. Somewhere in there, about 1,500 employees when seasonals came on board, to mix with the annual and part-time employees, and responsible for more than 80 properties, a ton of vehicles, and personnel. In the state, when I was with the state, I was responsible for personnel and more than 200 buildings. So I've had an array of public administration experience under my belt for over 30 years. So I've got a lot of hands-on experience. You know, I've always been someone's second, where you had to get the job done. You weren't the person that could just sit out and dove out orders, but you were actually someone that made things happen.
Now, with those types of roles, you certainly have faced some difficulties as well. There have been lawsuits with some members of the Freeport Police Department.
Oh, yeah.
How.
And I hate to say that's become the norm in our society, where lawsuits seem to be like going to get a burger today.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes these lawsuits are to test the public, to see if they're weak enough to fall for it. For instance, with the police department lawsuit in particular, the one that ended up in the Supreme Court, and the jury ruled in favor of the officer. I was really disappointed, because here's someone that had never lived in the village, got on the federal witness stand and said that he lied to get the job. When I chose not to choose him, it was primarily because, one, I didn't know him, whereas I knew one of the other lieutenants quite well. In fact, he and I had served in the volunteer fire department together for over 20 years. We grew up together. I knew this guy. I had trust in this guy. And civil service gives you 3 choices to choose from. All 3 equally qualified. So I chose a person that I thought that I could work with best, and that I felt that had a real commitment to Freeport. And he just happened to live here and pay taxes. Whereas this other person had never lived here and lied to get the job. So I thought that the jury would have seen it that way as well. And I'm disappointed. But at the end of the day, we're still in the Court of Appeals. And we'll see how it works out. But those are some of the hard choices you've got to make. When it came to Freeport, I did what I thought was best. So we'll continue to do that.
So, kind of dovetailing off of that, we'll start with Frank on this one. Why run for trustee now? What is the motivation behind moving into the public arena now?
Transparency is number one. There's a tremendous lack of transparency. This village board just seems to go along with everything that the mayor has to offer. The mayor himself has made commitments and has not honored those commitments. Give you one example is the parking meters on a nautical mile, which have wreaked havoc amongst the businesses and the neighbors in the community. Parking is a tremendous issue. People don't want to park in those metered lots. They park in front of people's homes. In the middle of the night, there's so much going on as far as vehicles go with parking in front of those homes. People are woken up in the middle of the night by way of people having sex on the side of their homes, defecating, urinating, drinking, loud music playing. I know one particular individual was calling the cops several times a day in Freeport. And this is down by the Seabreeze Park area. I want to make sure that the money is managed properly here. I don't want any shortcuts. Property was sold off that if the mayor didn't have this property at the time of Superstorm Sandy, the roads and the streets would not have been as cleaned as expeditiously as they were, because we had a place to put all that garbage. Mm-hmm. This administration has sold it off. There is no communication with the people in this community whatsoever. And I'm not opening my mouth to give our running mates a heads up on this. I'm telling you that I've spent a long time watching, learning, and researching about what's going on here in the community. And there's a lot of things that are wrong, and the taxpayers, unfortunately, the people of our community don't know what's going on. And they're going to be pretty shocked to find out the truth. And this is what Andrew was trying to do in his administration when he was mayor with the forensic audit. Millions of dollars were missing. And everybody put their heads down. Now all of a sudden with the Kennedy administration, yes, rubber stamps. That's what they are, rubber stamps. And this is the reason why I asked Andrew to run with me. Andrew had no consideration whatsoever to go back into Freeport politically. I'm very happy being home. And I asked him, I said, listen, I need somebody that knows really knows what's going on. Somebody that I can trust. And I built the trust while he was in his administration and verifying what he was doing and whether or not he was on the QT or on the down low.
He was stalking me.
True story. And
But you weren't actually stalking him, though, right?
no, I wasn't stalking him. I wasn't stalking him. But I did investigate him. I do want you to know that. I did investigate him.
Rightfully so.
So from what I can gather here is that, Frank, you found the motivation in your dissatisfaction with the way the village is being run now, and you reached out to Andrew because of his experience in the village of Freeport and elsewhere to try and, as you see it, turn the ship around and get it back going in the direction that you'd like to see the village go in, and you think would be the right way for the people of the village of Freeport.
The changes that he made in 4 years and the $30 million plus that he saved the community in his term, regardless of all the rhetoric that went on. The last 2 years that Bobby Kennedy's been in office has only saved $2 million. There's no more CDA, Community Development Agency, for 2 years, okay? And yes, to answer your question, yes. What's going on in this village was a motivator for me to go to this man. And I think he and I will be open to the public, and the public will say, you know what, that's what we need on that board. We need people that are going to be transparent with us and honest with us. There's a tremendous amount, in my opinion, dishonesty in the village.
Yeah, Hardwick, same question. What was your driving motivation other than perhaps fear from Frank's previous stalkings, or just wanting to get back into the village to go along with the same sort of theme of you're not liking what was going on, or was it really Frank reaching out to you and saying, hey, this is something that we really can change, will you work with me on this?
Well, one of the things that I learned while serving in the capacity of mayor, I quickly learned that in this arena in Freeport, on that board, if you are not a part of the majority of the board, it's a very lonely place, especially when you find that your colleagues are more about self-serving than serving the public. And that's one of the real issues that Freeport has right now. There's a lot of self-serving going on, and it's evident. I mean, if people really sit down and study like Frank did his homework, you would find that more than a dozen times through my tenure as mayor, I requested a forensic audit. Mm-hmm. And not once would the board vote for a forensic audit. Not even look into doing an RFP, a request for approval to get a quote on how much it would cost. They wouldn't even go that far, and that wasn't committing themselves to anything as far as budgetary expenditures. It was just getting a quote from outside CPAs or people that were qualified to do a forensic audit, just to get a number. They wouldn't do that. And so that spoke out in volumes to the residents that, if people are supposed to be trustworthy, they're your trustees. They're the people that are going to protect your finances. Don't know what has happened to tens of millions of dollars. That's concerning. That's concerning. And my biggest difficulty was that as a chief executive officer, to not know the where, whens, and how that happened. Right after sitting in the mayor's seat, after being sworn in, I quickly found that we were more than $3 million in the hole. And the year had not started yet. So the lies were sitting there, the deceit was sitting there waiting for us, because the old administration really felt that they were going to be there to handle that so that the public wouldn't find out. So you got to remember, when I sat in that seat, we were at $154 million worth of debt. When I left, we were around 122, 123. That's 2 years ago now, and the debt's still at 121. I paid down 30 before I left. So it's obvious the debt's not being paid down. Spending is going on, and people are being misled as far as their finances are concerned. We're right back where we were 5, 6 years ago.
So you guys you just addressed my next question, but your answers kind of dovetail into my next question following that, which is what are your initiatives for the village of Freeport? Is the forensic audit something you're perhaps interested in pushing for again to kind of reassess where the village sits financially? I mean, it seems that you have a pretty solid understanding.
Well, I would say not. I think that we'd be better served now with finding financial controls that could better serve the village rather than spend the money to find out what, where, who, and how, because it's going to be quite costly, because now we're talking about 3 administrations we'd have to look at. That would cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I believe that the village would be better served if we were to start from the beginning now with instituting real financial controls that can protect the village's finances, lead us into the future, being secured, and we'd be better served that way. To spend this money now to attempt to find out what happened and maybe even prosecute some people doesn't help the taxpayer. Because chances are you're never going to recoup any of that money. And even if you took homes and everything else, it wouldn't give you back the tens of millions that are missing. But what would be good is to go after those financial controls, like I said before, that can better protect us. We got to move ahead now. There's far too much to be concerned with now after Sandy. Sandy hasn't left. She's still in Freeport. There are more than 500 homes in Freeport that are in trouble. We have a ton of folks that just gave up and left because, quite frankly, their local and state and federal government left them out there. They betrayed them. Those families had to move on with their lives. So now we're left with the aftermath. Sandy's relatives are on their way. We've got these crazy snowstorms and everything else that are going on now. There's not enough elevation that could ever take place in this seaside community that could ever get us to a point where we could feel protected. Because we're never going to have enough money to do it all. You can't. Until we really look at a superstorm drainage system for places like Freeport and the coastal areas of this country, nothing else will work. We got to find something other than elevation. Elevation is not going to work because there's no way you can possibly do enough elevation. You can't. The superstorm drainage system, I think, is the better way to go. It's long term. It's something that's feasible for any community. You just got to find a way to make it happen. And those are some of the initiatives that I'd like to get back to work at. Helping the people that are still in trouble. We're still in trouble in Freeport. Our seaside community is crying for help still. And I just met with someone yesterday that's saying that their neighbors are still crying for help. And not only that, but the buildup. We don't want modules and all these other crazy little units they're bringing in pieces and installing them all over the village of Freeport. We want real sustainable housing with real wood. You know, not this fake plywood that they're bringing. It's compressed chips. That's not a real home. I mean, we want stuff that's going to last like the homes that are there, that have been there for 110, 120, 130 years, still sitting. You know, and we can do it.
So Frank, what following up on the what the mayor laid out here, what are some of the things that you'd like to see, or what you'd like to bring to the village of Freeport?
I'd like to see a fairer assessment of the properties. If I sat here and told you right now that those people that are out of their homes are actually being reassessed for their homes to pay a tax, and I can't go too deep into this right now, but those people will be responsible to pay additional taxes on their homes. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is re-implementing properly the community development program. CDA. Meals on Wheels, we don't have it. We had it. Youth programs, Freeport Rec Center, we don't have it. That's what that money was for. It's in the Federal Reserve, it's grant money. Senior programs, gone. This money, the CDA money, was abused, and that's why for 2 years it's been shut down. Okay, and I said this earlier, and I have to reiterate this because there's a lot to the CDA and what it does. And those people from Superstorm Sandy should be getting some compensation from that CDA, and they're not. It's misuse of funds. I would like to see possibly selling off, generating power and selling off more of our electric, creating jobs for kids that come out of high school here that are going into college, maybe part-time jobs or even full-time jobs for engineers, etc. I think a bus shuttle or some kind of shuttle service from the Long Island train station down to the nautical mile. People come from New York City, Freeport, get on the bus, go to Jones Beach. Very simple. You have a commuter bus, goes down there, they don't like it, the commuter bus goes back up, they hit the next bus for Jones Beach. Right? Simple as that. At least I got to experience the famous nautical mile in Freeport. And I'm pretty much on cue with a lot of things that the mayor said, especially not reopening the forensic audit. And he's right about the money. He's right about the money that was illegitimately spent. Arresting people is not going to salvage it. And it's not that he's in fear of the prior administration, his administration, and this administration. It's the cost. Because I know personally that everything that he did for 4 years was on the up and up. And how do I know it? Again, a higher power. Okay? Because I did investigate this man. Okay? And legally, I had the right to do that.
You're a taxpayer, baby.
Yep. And I did due diligence to the people once again of the community. And I hope that they appreciate what I'm trying to say. Is that what I invested in over 4 years and 3 years, okay, with 2 different departments, well over 4 years, with 2 different departments, has brought about my wanting to run for trustee and making a difference to try to put Freeport first, okay? Because it's not Freeport first. It's the administration first and Freeport second.
So now the most important question, I'm going to pose it to both of you guys at the same time, however you want to answer it. Why should I vote for you? Why, as a member of the Village of Freeport or a resident of the Village of Freeport, why should I vote for you? Is there, well, what is your take-home message to a voter that you run into on the street?
Well, I would say, if I may, Frank, that, and I can speak for myself, but the reason that I'm with Frank is because I believe in Frank. I believe that Frank has a clean heart. I believe that Frank is a God-fearing man. I believe that Frank really cares about Freeport. That's the reason that he has committed himself with his family here so long in business. And they have one heck of an operation to be admired down here. And that's one of the things that really attracted me to Frank when I was in office, because of the way he ran his operation. He's a serious businessman. But the other reason that I'm sitting next to him today is because Frank was willing to put himself out and stand up, speak out, and willing to fight for others, where not many people anywhere want to do this. A lot of people don't get it, and that's one of the reasons we're still here in the same foolish predicament, because people keep voting and supporting the wrong things that keep putting us right back here over and over and over and over again. And people in other places laugh at us sometimes because we're doing it to ourselves. But I believe that Frank and I have a combination that's strong enough to create that alarm clock that can wake up the sleeping giant. Freeport's a sleeping giant. It's a beautiful community with so many possibilities, a lot of great potential. But unless people like Frank and I stay at it and fight off the wolves that are here to rob us blind, because they see Freeport as an easy target. They race bait, they play all sorts of political games, they have the power with the rich and the famous to manipulate the news so that it reads a certain way. But at the end of the day, it's all about how they can keep their hands in the pockets of the little guy. Freeport is a little guy community. And I've got to show my kids, Frank wants to show his kids, how to fight the big mean guy that wants to harm the little guy. And that's what this is really all about. Because if you think about it, if for whatever reason we may disagree as a Democrat or a Republican, independent, liberal, whatever, at the end of the day, we should all be about how we can safeguard our community and enhance the quality of life. And if we aren't doing that, then we have a different motive for our existence. And that's what we're dealing about. People need to look at what's happened. You know, since I left office, economic development has stopped. Since I left office, the quality of services has plummeted. We can't say it's dropped off, it's plummeted. It's horrible. Snow removal, you name it. Because they're tying the hands of management. They're withholding on the expenditures to buy the ample amount of materials to combat whatever the situation is with snow removal or just the cleanliness of the village. Because it's all about how they can better serve and take care of themselves and the special interests. That's the truth. And I can say that because I was the guy in charge for 4 years. I know what's going on. And that's one of the reasons you ought to be voting for Frank and I, because we're the real deal. Everyone else is hired hands that have jumped in this campaign because someone's paying them to be there or because they've been promised something to be a spoiler. Because if you really want to protect and serve Freeport, then you would have the audacity to contact Frank and I and say, hey, listen, I wanted to run for office, and I know you guys are running. All of us can't win. There's only 2 seats. There's 7 people running for 2 seats. Let's get together and work this out so we can all get behind 2 people and do what's right for Freeport. They won't do it. I've been the mayor. Why do I need to be the trustee? I don't need this. But I know that Frank can't be there by himself. He needs a support base on that board because it's treacherous. And you got people that are waiting there to program him for failure, to undermine his existence because that's how they are. And I'm being blunt. I'm telling the truth. I'm almost 60 years old. I'm laying it out now. And I am a God-fearing man. And I've been like that all my life with this game called politics. Over 30 years I've been in this business. You know how many times I've been accused or investigated and nothing? So many times I can't keep count anymore. But I'm still standing, I'm still sitting here because I've got clean hands. And Frank and I can do a heck of a job.
And Frank, why should the people of Freeport vote for you?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Andrew, because I wouldn't be here today if Andrew wouldn't have said yes. Okay? Thank you. Everything you said, I'm honored. And everything that he has said is 100%. Right on the money. Additionally, the self-serving here and the yes men, again, I'm going to re-mention it, the rubber stamping has got to stop. Famous president said the biggest fear is fear itself. There is no fear here to say, let's see if this is factual before we approve it. Let's understand it before we spend it. Okay? This is what's going on. This is the transparency that we need, not only in the village, but the transparency that we need to bring to the community. They have a say. They are the taxpayers. The assessment process here is absurd. I had an individual call, and this is one of my biggest peeves. I had an individual call and speak with me, as many people have. 3-bedroom Cape, 1.5 baths. Do you know a tax attorney to help me? I'm paying over $14,000 in taxes for a 3-bedroom Cape, 1.5 bath, no basement. Can you imagine this? Okay, so this is another objective of ours. Okay, is not only to try to stop the taxes, which Mayor Kennedy boasts how you haven't gotten a tax increase in 2 years. Why? Where's the money? Where is the money coming from? Or, is it like Andrew said, he's spending it and cutting the services. So what he's doing is he's bringing a $10 item that's justified for the individuals or the community, i.e. snow removal. Bringing the employees in prior to the storm, even if it's a couple of hours, to be prepared. Not prepare in the middle of the storm. Have no salt or sand on hand. So, let's not give the taxpayer an increase. Let's cut the quality of life here in Freeport. This is just one example of his spending. Also, the money from the parking meters, $100,000. Well, what did it really cost us for policing down there? Because now all the patrons are parking in the community. So how do you justify that? Was that community development agency money that put those meters in there or a part of? That CDA is for economic development as well. Where's the money? No CDA.
And that's one of the reasons that I introduced Freeport to public access television, was because I really wanted to bring in to their living rooms transparency and the ability for them to engage themselves with the day-to-day operations of the village. Because it's important as a taxpayer. I mean, it's a business, and you're a part of the business. You should know what's going on, and if you don't really care for it, you have the opportunity to come in and say, listen, I saw the last meeting, I'm not for that, I'd like for you to look at a different option. Because you're a part of the business. And now that people know more, we should be doing better. And we're not. Now little sneaky things are going on, like muffling the volume on the television, or having very short meetings. They brag about having 15-minute meetings. And that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for quick meetings. We're looking for real meetings and real objectives to be dealt with. You know, and quite frankly, for a while now, we've been getting the runaround. I think that Frank and I could bring more flavor to the board in the sense of getting the public the day-to-day info of what's really going on. And that's what the meetings are for online. You know, they got this thing now. The mayor says with the board, come to our office during the day. We've got these meetings for quality of life meetings on Tuesdays, all day long. There's always a trustee here to speak with you. The reason for the television is because that meeting is the mayor's office. It's the trustee's office during that meeting. And perhaps whatever difficulty that resident or business owner had that they brought to the meeting, it's the same difficulty that someone else is having. And so if you gave the answer on the television, you'd be helping more than just that one resident or business owner. It's about transparency. It's about helping people Johnny on the spot because we have the capability. Why not do it? Everything can't be about smoke and mirrors, and that was the reason for the television. I wanted people to really understand what we were trying to accomplish by doing that, and that was to bring them in to get them involved, because when people are not involved with what's going on, they lose. You can't ever put everything that you have in terms of trust into some individual and never check up on them and expect everything to be the way you like it when you return. It's not going to be. Highly unlikely.
Well, I think you guys have certainly done a good job of laying out your vision for the village of Freeport and giving the people some background if they were not already familiar with you. So I want to thank you both again for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
wish you the
Cheryl.
best of luck in the upcoming election.
Thank you.
And I want to urge all of you out there to get out and vote come election day. Thank you again for joining us, and have a good evening.
We will.
We will.
We will.
We will.
We will.
We will.
We will be counted.
We will matter.
We will stand our ground.
We will be brave. Brave. Brave.
We will be heard. Heard.
We will.
We will.
We will.
We will organize.
We will
Vote.
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 Vote. Vote. Vote.
We will.
Vote because we matter.
Because you matter.
We will vote because we make a difference.
We will vote.
We will. We will.